Hi everyone, Deryck Walker from Strata Management Training Institute. Victorian Strata Law Review. The time frame for making your submission is close to closing. I believe it might be the 2nd of September. Now, 2 full days were invested by myself in making a submission. I'm sharing with my network my own thoughts on areas that need improvement, tweaking, or an addition. Of course, like with all things in life, you may disagree with some of the things that I believe need to be introduced, and that's fine. It's all part of public discourse. I just wanted to share with my network some of the ideas that I've put forward as part of my submission. Of course, I'm not including everything because my submission was enormous, but I'm trying to cover off some of the key things that I mentioned in making my submission to the government. Now, if you're seeing this, you're probably connected with me on LinkedIn, so you know who I am, but just in case. Strata Geek, I'll start with that, even though it's at the bottom. Everything in my life revolves around Strata. I ran my own business for 13 years. I now specialise in training. I helped RMIT to develop the first iteration of the Certificate for in Strata Community Management. I now run SMTI, and I run training for Strata management companies, Strata managers, people looking to enter the industry, lot owners and committees. I'm very privileged to be able to provide support to all these different stakeholders in the industry. And I really am just trying to do what I can to lift standards in the industry and support managers and committees out there. The first thing to mention, if you're going to make a submission, learn from my mistakes. You can see the website engage.vic.gov.au. You have 2 ways to make a submission. One is you can complete a survey. The second one is you can just upload your own submission. The point that I had some hard lessons to learn here, I did the survey and I got about half a day through of doing that. It is very restrictive because of the format. For example, you have a skinny little text box in which to enter your text. As far as getting in, scrolling through, looking at grammar, trying to find errors, navigating the different fields, it's really hard. If I was to do this again, I would just make a document in Word or a similar format and just upload that. So it's funny. There's a lot of detail in my submission, but I suspect there's a lot of typos because I found it really hard to go back through all of the different cells and scroll through and find and fix everything. So to whoever in the government is actually going through what might seem like gobbledygook in my submission, apologies. But yes, if you're going to do it, my recommendation is do a Word doc, upload your submission that way. The first recommendation I have made in my submission, we can't have accountability without enforcement. We need an owners corporation commissioner appointed by the government in order to pursue breaches, whether it's by a committee, an owner, a manager, the initial owner who is the developer, whoever it might be. Right now, the only way a real breach is pursued if someone or a group of people have the time and energy and money to pursue something at VCAT or the courts. So there's a whole raft of provisions in the Act that were brought in 2021 that I'll tell you right now are being completely ignored because there's no one at government enforcing it. Can I give you some examples? 2021 amendments. The initial owner, the initial being the developer, cannot be paid by a Strata manager to be appointed as a manager. Is that still happening sometimes? Yes. The initial owner cannot be the owners corporation manager. Is it still happening? Yeah, through related entities, but in essence, it's still occurring. There's all of these restrictions in place, and I regularly get the question in training sessions. Well, okay, Deryck, there are these. I'll give you one more before I carry on. The initial owner cannot propose an initial budget which is unsustainable, I think is the word that's in the Act. An excellent addition to the Act to try and stop developers from misrepresenting the initial budgets and the fees skyrocket 3 years later. An amazing addition to the Act. But who is enforcing it? The answer is no one. At a government level, no one. You hear the odd case of a random individual going to the effort of going to VCAT. It shouldn't be that way. In addition, at VCAT, the penalties in a commercial sense are incredibly minor. So there needs to be a Strata commissioner, an owners corporation commissioner, who can take up the cause and stamp out unethical actors, and the penalties need to be higher than they are at the moment, as per the boss. Carrying on. In the amendments, the only recommendation for any minimum training requirements is that the officer in effective control obtains the certificate for Strata community management, and that's it. For a very large organisation, you can have one officer in effective control, and under them, hypothetically, they could have 200 owners corporation managers looking after their own portfolios, and not a single one of them under the current draft has any education, training, or professional development requirements under the Act. I see this as very, very flawed. I was very lucky to be part of that first iteration of the certificate for helping to RMIT to try and build a national qualification. As a result, I know the training package absolutely intimately. The certificate for is the best possible fit for the big boss in each management company, for the officer in effective control. But my recommendation is there needs to be a 3-tiered level. Number one, officer in effective control holds the certificate for. And of course, there needs to be a transition period. That's fine. The second thing that needs to be added, an owners corporation manager looking after a portfolio should hold 8 units, which are subjects from the certificate for. Very quickly, the certificate for is an absolute beast. It has 18 units. In my professional opinion, the qualification has swollen and is now actually too big. If you were to do that course properly in a classroom, you're looking at probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years to get it all done if you were going through a high quality learning experience. It's really common in the RTO space that you can package a smaller number of those units, i.e. subjects, into something called a skill set. Owners corporation managers should undertake 8 of the units as a skill set to be able to operate, whether you call it licensing or registration, that's by the by, and a junior or assistant manager needs 4 units. The reason why the system works well, it gives you a stepped approach. You come into the industry brand new, there is a training requirement, you need to get 4 of the units. That is easily attainable. It can be done quite quickly. The cost is relatively affordable. You want to progress to becoming an independent owners corporation manager? Well, okay, you're going to need to get another 4 units. So you now have 8 in total. And then if you want to go into running your own business, you've got to get the whole qualification. This will work because it gives you that progression that is needed throughout the industry, and it then sets a minimum standard for all of those working in the industry, whether they're a junior, an operative strata manager, or those running or responsible for a business. In addition, there needs to be annual training requirements, minimum quotas, whatever it might be. We can set the hours for junior, middle, and senior. You need to be undertaking X amount of hours each year, and obviously lowest for low, middle for the middle, and top for the top, i.e. junior manager, call it 4 or 6 hours, middle manager, 8 to 12 hours, officer in effective control, 16 to 20 hours. Whatever the hours are right now, that's arbitrary. It can be calculated, but there needs to be something put into this place. And the certificate for training should be able to count towards that professional development time. Otherwise, you can do other CPD approved activities that count towards that quota as well. Disclosure. Hot button topic in the industry. There are some moving around with pitchforks at the moment. My own view, the Act made some excellent changes in 2021. There is a clear requirement that a management company discloses when there is gifts, payments, commissions, benefits. Great. The part that's being missed, what happens if the principal of a management company owns a part of a gardening contractor, window cleaning contractor, plumber, accountant, building consultancy? What happens if their interest is owned through some sort of corporate entity like a trust? In any case, if someone who is running an owners corporation management business has interest, gets profits from another entity that their clients are paying, their clients need to know. It can't just be tucked away in the T's and C's. It needs to be this simple. if you said to your client, were you aware that Bob had a share in the plumbing contractor? The answer should be yes. We were aware. We knew about it. Not, it's tucked away in the terms and conditions somewhere, but my clients may or may not know. So both things need to account. But the Act needs to take into account when there are corporate structures used to try and avoid disclosure. Yeah. And amongst the whole debate around insurance commissions, no one's talking about ownership of related entities. It's something I've published on LinkedIn before, and I'm flagging it here. I think it's in the entire industry's best interest. Worth noting, I don't think commercially there's a problem here. There are lots of corporate entities that own lots of different businesses, and that's fine. Do your clients know that's the case? Your client should have the option to engage whoever they want. You cannot compel them to use one contractor over the other. It's not the manager's position. The manager does not have that power. Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox for a second and continue on. Committee training should not be required for small owners corporations, but for tiers 1 and 2, large OCs, above 50 lots, yes, absolutely. Buildings worth tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars that oversee projects worth millions and millions of dollars. Is it okay these committee members have no idea around roles, responsibilities, liabilities, risks? No, it's not okay. And there needs to be something put in place by the government, not just a PDF on the CAV website saying, here's information about, being a committee member. You wouldn't be surprised to hear, I may have written to the Minister of Consumer Affairs. I may have written to the board that's been appointed to oversee the amendment saying, hi, I'm here. This is currently what I'm doing. Everyone's happy with the work I'm putting together. I've done the same thing with other entities in the industry saying, hi, I think I'm bringing value, helping bringing up standards. I guess I'm tabling my own conflict of interest here, which is I run a training business, but what is driving me in running my training business is trying to make the industry better, trying to help committees to do a better job by knowing the way that things work. The same with managers. Anyways, long story short, tiers 1 and 2 should go through some basic training program to teach them what it is to be a committee member. Interesting to see what some think in this space. Through my dealings, I work with hundreds of different strata managers, lot owners, and committees. Sometimes, let's call it, you'll have a rogue committee member that is ethically doing the wrong thing, but there is no mechanism to remove that individual from the committee outside of calling a general meeting. I believe there needs to be a vote of no confidence added so that if it is proven a committee member is acting in contravention to section 117, the committee can remove them. And look at what's on the screen. Section 117. Are they acting honestly in good faith? Are they exercising due care and diligence? Are they acting in the best interests of the owner's corporation? Are they doing something? Are they using their position to profit? These are all things that should be absolutely out of bounds. If it is proven a committee member is doing this, a committee should have a right to say, sorry, you're not the right ethical fit for committee. Whether or not there's a two-strike system or whatever the case may be, there needs to be something in place so a committee can clean house if there are people doing the wrong thing, acting dishonestly, acting in bad faith. Election of committee. The Act currently says you can only elect or remove a committee at a general meeting, quite specifically. What does this mean? You cannot elect a committee via correspondence. It's impossible. And this is so entirely impractical. Let's play with the idea of a large OC, tier 1. You have 24 people nominate from the floor for committee. There's only a maximum of up to 12 positions available. And I know this practically, it's a nightmare to deal with in this case. Just going through that process can be incredibly difficult on top of everything else you've already got to deal with. If the Act allowed for a formal postal ballot to confirm election of committee, it would make everyone's lives easy. And this would be handy not only in big OCs, but in small ones as well. Think through that process. You have a committee, you've got lots of people nominated, you can't quite lock it in at the meeting. And so if we had this as an option, you could say, anyone that's nominated, please send through a CV talking about yourself. We will send that with a postal ballot, whichever the 12 members are that receive the most amount of votes based on their submission to the owners, they will be formally elected as committee members. We need to have a committee election process via correspondence. Responsible financial management. Before I start talking about what I'm getting at here, in 2021, they brought in a revision to say owners corporations must obtain a valuation for insurance purposes every 5 years. That change was immensely helpful. Why? Up until this point, managers sit down with their clients and they say to their clients, you need to have enough insurance cover. And the clients say, well, how do we know if we have enough insurance cover? And the answer to that is you should get a valuation. The clients say, do we have to get a valuation? And before that, the answer was, well, no, it's optional. So the government made a change and they said you must have a valuation every 5 years. And it just did away with this whole debate. It just put it to bed. The manager could then point to the Act and say there is a clear requirement to get a valuation in the best interest of everyone. You don't want to be over or under insured. I believe a similar addition needs to be made around owners corporations making irresponsible financial management decisions. What am I talking about? An owners corporation that knowingly trades insolvent. What does that mean? An owners corporation financially is underwater. In addition, they're operating at a deficit. So things are going downhill and downhill bad. They are under the water and they're going further underwater. There is nothing in the Act outside of Section 117 that I mentioned before around acting in good faith for the committee. We really need a provision that says an owners corporation cannot knowingly trade insolvent. Once again, like the valuation, a manager in this dynamic could point to the Act and they could say, I'm sorry, everyone, I know it's hard, I know it's going to cost more money, but it's the right thing to do. In the corporate world, there are serious penalties to trading insolvent, jail time and fines. Yeah, and I don't see why, when you think of how big a tier 1 or tier 2 OC can be and the money involved, why it should be any different. Tiers 1 and 2 must have a maintenance fund and maintenance plan brought in 2021 with some transition provisions. Excellent, excellent, excellent. My belief is tier 3 need to be brought into this as well. Tier 3 is up to 50 lots, which once again is a large development, a multi-million dollar, $100 million development potentially for a block of 40 or 50. I don't see why they're excluded from this, and I believe that they should be brought in for proactive management. It is in the best interest of all parties in the industry. If you had a block of 40 and they had absolutely no proactive management, there's going to be some big special levies, which is to everyone's detriment. So I believe this needs to be implemented ASAP. Minor arrears can cause some teething issues at meetings. Once again, a practical example, a manager is running a meeting. Let's say it's me. I'm a lot owner, Deryck. I show up just due to a calculation error when I paid my bill. I missed 50 cents on my account. In accordance with the Act, I'm in arrears. What flows from that? I can't vote on any ordinary resolutions at the meeting. I'm ineligible to join the committee. I'm ineligible to hold a proxy for another owner because I am in arrears, and there is no threshold for acceptance for anything above that. The Act needs a minor adjustment, something along the lines, if there is an owner with a minor amount of arrears, such as up to $30, the owners corporation can, by ordinary resolution at a general meeting, to resolve to waive some or all of those restrictions. I am nominating a minor amount because it really is dealing with these little minor amounts, not major debts. If you have a debt that's above that amount, then I'm sorry, the voting restrictions apply and that's fair. And in saying all of this, the owners corporation could actually say, sorry, we're not going to waive the restrictions in this case because you're just arguing about a $10 bill and we think you need to pay it and that's it. But just having some flexibility in this case would really help managers. Another hot button topic, nearly done, stick with me. When a lot is sold and a new owner moves in, things are transferred, day of settlement, there is no requirement saying the lot owner must provide the owners corporation with their contact details within X amount of days, and this is badly needed. It needs to name mailing address, email, phone, and rental agent where relevant, and it needs to give a number of days, and it needs to have a fine applicable. Why? At the moment, there is no requirement. It doesn't say it clearly in the Act. What does this mean? There's an emergency in a building. There's a water leak coming from an upstairs apartment. The manager goes to the file to desperately call the lot owner to communicate the emergency. There's no phone number on the file because the owner has never brought it forward because there's no requirement in the Act to provide it. Can you see the problem here? It needs to extend to when those details change as well. So if an owner moves, if they change their email, if they change their phone, they need to notify the owner's corporation within 14 days of that change. To extend this point one step further, a decision during the year that I might have been the last 12 months, that I do not agree with foundationally around lot owners' private details, specifically emails and telephone numbers. Due to a decision at VCAT, I believe it was the St. John decision, it has stated that a lot owner can obtain a copy of anything held by the owner's corporation. What happens if a lot owner has had incidental contact with a manager to communicate a DVO, domestic violence order? And in doing that, they were just wanting to let the manager be aware of what for them is an incredibly sticky, tricky situation that they do not want anyone else to know about. If that email is sent to the manager, it is technically part of the records, and therefore under that decision, it's technically viewable by any lot owner. And morally, I disagree. The only way with this decision right now that an owner could prevent their email or phone number from being shared is one of two things. Either one, you never ever provide it to the manager, which means never contacting the manager, or two, you go to VCAT and you get an order restricting access to that information. Could it be more obstructive? No, it's about as bad as it can be. I believe that the Act needs to have a very clear provision for an owner to opt out of sharing an email or telephone number if they do not want it disseminated to other lot owners. Whether you like it or not, managers regularly deal with plenty of information and events which sit in a grey area. Someone calls the manager because who else are they going to call? Do they want that information sent to the other lot owners? No, they do not. So this needs to be clearly put into place, and the provisions under the Act need to be brought into line. To clarify, the first provision, I believe it's 146, I should have this in front of me, whatever the provisions are in this part of the Act, I believe it's 144, gives you the list of records that an owner's corporation must hold. The next part says a lot owner can view the records held under this division. So that list, and the list is something like minutes, voting papers, records, invoices, notices of meetings, so on and so forth. So the Act says these records an owner can view. The part that is tricky, the third part in the Act, it says a lot owner can obtain any record. Any record. So getting my thought process through, the first part says an owner can come and view records under this division. The next part says a lot owner can obtain a copy of anything. The solution here is to add to that second part, a lot owner can obtain a copy of any record under this division. Problem solved. Problem solved. That's not currently the case. Highly impractical. I know there's some people really passionate about the other side of the fence here, and that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. If you've got this far through the video, wow. Thank you for hanging on. Always lots of things to talk about. Any questions? Send me now. Always up for a chat. Something I'm very passionate about, and just wanted to communicate what I've been up to. Thanks for listening.